Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley, and this is Terry Rice here. We are so excited to be joining you all today and excited to have everybody here. Before we get going, let's just quickly check. Can you all type into the comments? Can you see us and hear us? Number one. And number two, where are you tuning in from today? It looks like we've got a handful of folks tuned in. Would love to know the geographic areas represented here. So just type into the comments that you can see us and hear us and where you're tuning in from. And in the meantime, I get to say hello to Terry. How are you?
I'm doing good, Ashley. And as you know, everyone, I'll just fill you in. Up until about 2 minutes ago, I had no internet access. I was like just sitting here plugging away at work, and then my Wi-Fi cut out and my Ethernet cut out. And I was like texting or emailing Ashley from my phone, like, I don't know if this is going to happen or not. So I'm glad we're here, like, to connect today, but it almost didn't happen. So
So
glad to be here.
and we kind of I feel like this is a valuable life lesson experience. We welcome you to come as you are for these Discover Live events, even when what you are is a little bit frazzled dealing with highly inappropriately timed internet problems, which seems to be, for me anyway, what they always are. It's always right before I need my internet to do something important. That's when it decides to take a little vacation.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and that's the benefit of being prepared for stuff like this, because
yes.
once you're confident in what you can do and how you can help people, it's hard to get shook, because you're like, okay, well, that happened, but I'm confident how I can help people, and I'm glad to be here. But I see some people here. We see Michelle from Chicago. Michelle used to live in Hoffman Estates, if you know where that is. We got someone
All
else from New
right.
York City. I'm here in Brooklyn. So we got Nigeria, New Mexico. I'm
Yeah,
so
well,
glad
this
I did
is
not disappoint all these people by not having
yeah, this is
Wi-Fi.
we have so many time zones represented here. I'm loving this. We have Edinburgh in the UK, we have Istanbul, San Diego, that's kind of close to me. I'm in San Francisco, New Mexico. Amazing. This is so wonderful. Thank you all for typing into the comments that you can see us and hear us, because that would be another one of those little snafus. We would hate for Terry to have overcome internet uh, frustration just to have people not be able to hear and see and receive his wisdom. So glad everybody is tuned in and can hear us and see us. I'm really excited to be chatting with Terry today. Terry, I was mentioning to you, I'm familiar with your work and so grateful that you have decided to join us here today. Curious to know from our audience, what made you decide to join us today? What are you hoping to learn? What experience or exposure do you have to Terry's work? Where are you in your own coaching or consulting journey, if that's something that you're currently pursuing? Um, for those of you who don't know, Terry is not only an expert in the field of coaching, consulting, and building a business essentially out of how to share one's wisdom, but he's also become a really terrific teacher and educator for those who are in a similar situation, maybe at transitioning in their careers. And I would love, before we officially get started, Terry, I would love to hear just a little bit about your background and your journey. But audience, so you're aware, we will have a replay available of this entire session. So if you miss anything, don't fret. You'll be able to replay. You can replay it right here on the YouTube channel. We'll also email you a link to the replay as well. And I will be monitoring and checking the comments throughout the event today. So please type in your questions, your comments for Terry, and we'll save some time at the end for some Q&A. Would love to, and I'll definitely be tracking what everybody is hoping to learn. So Terry, tell us a little bit about how you got here.
Yeah, yeah, sure thing. So for the first 10 years of my career, I worked internally. at companies such as Facebook and Adobe. And I was a knowledge-based expert, so mostly consulting on paid search marketing as well as Facebook marketing. But after a while, I was like, you know what, I can probably just do this for myself. And I did, but I realized there was a big difference between knowing how to be an expert in your craft and knowing how to actually run a business. So my first 6 months were horrible in regards to generating revenue and even just feeling secure. And that
The
was made
learning
even more
curve.
challenging. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was made even more challenging by the fact that I had a newborn daughter. So I'm just sitting here looking at this little kid and realizing that her future was tied to the success of my business. And I was just messing up left and right.
No
So it was
pressure,
very,
no pressure.
yeah, very challenging. And eventually, I found my way just by finding other mentors, other examples of people who are doing it well. And that's what I want to do now is just, there's no hacks, but you can accelerate the process of learning how to do this the correct way and avoid a lot of
Mm.
frustration along the way. And that's really what I'm delivering to you. So it's time compression and clarity. These are things you might have discovered yourself along the way, but you don't want to take years to do it and waste a lot of money and be frustrated while you're in the process of doing so.
Yeah, I so appreciate that. And there is a tremendous value. And it looks like, we've got comments coming in here uh, who from folks who are just needing a little bit of inspiration and know that you are better than a cup of espresso. And then Ilan is mentioning having this path, but playing it too small and wanting to step things up. So we've got a broad spectrum of folks here today. And like you said, Terry, there's some tremendous value in being able to learn from the experiences of folks who have gone through those moments of high anxiety and my daughter's future is riding on my choices right now, and what can I do to better position myself to be successful in this way. And there's no doubt that having some mentors is useful. So thank you for being here today. And those of you who are just joining us, my name is Ashley with the Discover team here at Teachable, joined today by coach, consultant, and educator Terry Rice. And we're going to be talking a little bit about how to actually grow your business. Maybe you've made this transition, you're working on building a name for yourself. And Terry's going to give us a little peek behind the curtain from some of his trials and errors and successes, and help us figure out, how do we determine our value? How do we price ourselves? How do we set up a business so that we can thrive? So without any further ado, I will turn it over to you, Terry.
Cool, thanks. And what I want to do is make this interactive. I don't need to just regurgitate things I've said before. I want to start by actually addressing Ilan's question. She's saying, I've been playing too small and really want to step things up and grow my business. Let's talk about playing things too small. When I first started my consulting business, I was doing hourly consulting and I was charging $40 an hour because that sounded like a lot to me working in house. So I was like, oh, if you do the math, that's like $200,000 a year, give or take, a couple zeros there. The math's probably off. But what I realized is when you're a consultant or a coach, you're not working full time, and therefore the value you provide goes much deeper, and they're not paying you for that many hours. They're not paying for 40 hours a week. So just realize, maybe $100 an hour sounds like a lot. Maybe 500 sounds like a lot, but you're being super impactful with that time, right? And the benefit of them bringing in an expert is you have visibility to their blind spots they might not see. So recently I booked a consulting call with this woman. Her name's Cynthia Sandoval. She's one of my clients, and she's a paid search marketing expert. And she charged me, I think it was like $400 for the hour. She gave me so much wisdom. I was like, you got to start charging more. Don't charge me more, but charge other people more, because she solved some very expensive problems for me. So realize that even if you are talking for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you can give people information that's going to scale, make them tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, or just improve their life, right? One of my other clients is a sleep health educator. She helps people get better sleep. How much would you pay to be able to sleep better, right? 500, 5,000, a lot, right? Because
So
it
important.
impacts, yeah, it impacts so many things. So the problem with you all being experts is you think some of the stuff you're talking about is obvious, It's not. That's why they want to talk to you about it. So Elon and everyone else, don't sell yourself short, because the value you're delivering goes on more than just that hour. It keeps on going throughout the rest of their life or their business. So I just want to bring that up first to kind of level set here. But
Great.
I am going to share some slides. I don't want to turn this into a presentation, or else it's going to get really boring real quick. But we're talking about building a business. And often one way of doing that is through social media, by creating content, so on and so forth. But it's easy to look like you're being impactful when you're really not. And I'm going to share my screen right now and give you an example of that. So whenever I say share my screen, I always get worried. I'm like, am I actually going to share this thing or not? But let's see.
Give it a shot. You can share it into the stream, and I should be able to pull it up for you. There we go.
Cool.
Ta-da!
Great. So this is a post I had on LinkedIn about a month ago. And it was real basic. I said, yesterday I saw a post on LinkedIn that I strongly disagreed with. I kept scrolling and enjoyed the rest of my day. For some reason, this took off and went viral. You see, it got over 1 million views, to the point where even the CEO of LinkedIn reached out to me and said, hey, Terry, cool post. And I was like, holy cow, this guy actually reached out to me. But you might think, oh, wow, Terry, that's cool. You got all these views. I made $0 off this. This seems cool, but I wasn't providing any value to my target audience. So it was not a good branding exercise whatsoever. Right. So what I want to do is just teach you how to focus on impact. Right. When you're on LinkedIn, when you're on Instagram, maybe you won't get millions of views or even like hundreds of likes or whatever it is. But as long as you're speaking to your audience, providing value and sharing your zone of genius, you will be successful. It just takes some time to do so. Right. So let me keep on plugging along here. And like I said, I don't want to share slides the whole time, but some of them are useful, which is why I made them. I want to go into your key takeaways. The first part is determining your services, and then going ahead and demonstrating your expertise. That's through the marketing we talked about. How much to price your services and how to package them, and then going into navigating sales calls and proposals. But by the way, these sales calls, they're made so much easier when you attract people to you by the content you create and the reputation you have, as opposed to just cold DMing people and saying, hey, do you have 15 minutes to talk about your strategy and see if I can help you? It's like, that's not going to work too well, right? And when you do that, you give away all the leverage in the conversation. So what you will leave here with today with is a way to create inbound leads for your business based on who you are, not just what you do. So just so I get an idea of what's going on, can you let me know how long you've been in your business for? And you see the prompts here between 1 and 4. Have you been doing it for, haven't started yet, hit 1, less than a year, hit 2, 1 to 2 years, hit 3, 3 years plus, hit 4. Just want to get an idea here of where we're at in regards to our business. And those of you that have been doing this for a while, I'd love to hear, how things are going as we kind of go through some of these tactics that I gave you. So less than a year, Alicia is 3+ years. So she's the pro here. So is Peter. Thanks for joining here. So I'm sure you got a lot of great experience to share. Judy's saying less than a year. Megan's also doing this for 3+ years. I mean, congrats for making it over a year for anyone, because I know that's the toughest part. That's when you start thinking, you know what, maybe let's go back to this 9 to 5. Someone said 8, go for it. All right, you're running laps around this. Cool. All right. So thank you for that. It gives me just an idea of, who's in the room. But what I want to do is just bring up the fact that as I'm going through this content, I do hope it provides value. But if you want more value going forward, I do have an online course that reinforces this. I want to bring this up now because I don't want to yell surprise at the end and try to sell you something. If you like what you're hearing in regards to my approach, the templates I have, the tools I have, there is an opportunity to buy this online course that I created through Teachable, where you'll also get access to me every week through live Q&A. So bring it up now so there's no surprises. But let's go ahead and provide some value first.
Just so everyone knows, the course is linked at the very top of the YouTube stream, the comment stream, in the description. And then I also just dropped it in the chat here so you can follow along and check out what else Terry has to offer. Awesome.
Thanks for that. So what I want to do now is present the 5 pillars of consulting success. This is the more or less the walkthrough that I give people when I'm helping them build their brand, right? This is my process. As I'm going through this, I want you all to think what process you have as well, because you want to be this clear in regards to how you present yourself as well, right? So here it is. The first step is clarity and vision. Clarity is the precursor to confidence. Once you get very clear on what you do and who you do it for and how much you want to charge, you're now prepared to go ahead and present yourself to the world. And also your vision. What's the vision you have for your personal life as well as your business life, right? Do you want to, work a traditional schedule? Do you want to travel? Do you want to have an online course so your work is a bit more automated as opposed to being real time? But have this stuff in mind from the beginning. That way you're not scrambling so much as you're building out your business, right? The next part is this, your business process. These are the tools, the apps, the routines that help you spend more time in your zone of genius and less time doing boring admin tasks that waste your time, energy, and talent, right? So, and this is embarrassing, but there's been times when I have not been paid because it took me too long to send out an invoice. I've been too lazy to send out an invoice. And they're like, can you please pay this within the quarter? Because that's how we do our invoicing around here.
So real, so real.
But as a professional, you're like, look, I don't want to be sitting around doing invoicing all day or updating my website or, all these tedious things. So you want to build a process in place to help with this stuff. And on my end, I have a virtual assistant I use, but I also recently started an agency that solves these problems for my audience as well, because this is where you get stuck. You're an expert at what you do, but you're not an expert at all these other things. These are going to start piling up. You're going to get frustrated and you might quit. All right. Mm-hmm. The next thing is branding and marketing. How do you present yourself to your audience in a way that makes them want to reach out to you? So we're going to go very deep into content marketing, but one thing you all need that is a non-negotiable is what's called a lead magnet. Yes or no in the chat here. Do you know what a lead magnet is? A lead magnet. And I'll give away the answer to an extent. It's going to be some kind of valuable information that you share with your audience in exchange for their email address, right? So what I would say is this. If you don't have this, all right, Brian's already on top of that. If you don't have this, you're at a disadvantage, because when you're on social media, when you're on events like this, when you're on podcasts, the only thing you have to offer in regards to connecting with someone is, hey, email me or sign up for a call. But if you have a lead magnet, and in my case, it's the one-page business plan for consultants, and I'll give you a link to that later, you can talk about stuff on social media like, hey, are you a consultant? Do you wish you had a business plan? Here's a business plan. Sign up now, and you're good to go.
Provide some value right up front.
There you go. And say it more poetically than that. But now you can grow your business through, you can do it through automated email marketing as well. So please do that, because I see so many people saying, hey, Terry, I'm on social and no one's really reaching out to me. And what's going wrong? I would say, well, do you have something super valuable you can offer them in exchange for their contact information? That powerful, right? And then again, going towards pitching and proposals, the benefit of you having all this great content is people are going to reach out to you and specifically say, how can you help me? But what I want you to realize is this: it doesn't always happen immediately. Just last week, I got an email from this woman who took a course with me in San Francisco 4 years ago. And she's like, hey, Terry, hope all's been well. I'm wondering if you can help me with this thing. And I'm like, hope all's been well. There's been like 3 presidential administrations since we last talked. Like, how do you even remember me, right?
All has not been well, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, but people remember you. So what I'm saying is, like, you're building a brand and a business that's going to reward you for years. It might not happen day one, month one, whatever it is. But if you're consistent, you will have people reaching out to you, ready to work with you, just like she was. So there's no selling when you get on a call with someone like that. They remember you 4 years later. That they don't need to be convinced, right? And the last one is fulfillment. That's you delivering on the promises that you make to your clients. And on my end, I'm glad to have the experience recently of going on platforms like Upwork and Fiverr to try to find people to fulfill some services for me. Because now I know what it's like to be on the other side of the table, where you're hiring someone. And I hired this one person, and they're horrible across all dimensions. And I was like, this is a very good teachable moment, because I never want anyone to feel like that after working with me. And if you commit to that, if you say, look, I never want anyone to feel like, oh, I should not have messed with Ashley, then you will do a really good job, because your focus is on providing value to people, not just generating revenue. If you focus on providing value, you will grow your business through testimonials and referrals, not sales and marketing, right? So this is my process. What is yours? Document this first. It will take some time. I'll give you some tools for how to do that. But once you have this level of clarity, everything else falls into place, because then you know what to do in regards to promoting yourself and delivering on the value that you're promising people, right? So how do you get this clarity and vision? Well, in regards to your target audience, you want to do some audience research. Here's the biggest problem I see so many consultants make. They create solutions for problems that don't exist, and then they wonder why no one wants to buy it. So what I'm telling you right now is do some research on your target audience. If you know people that are in your audience, ask them questions. What's the biggest challenge you have on a daily basis in regards to finding success? It could be in your business, your personal life, whatever it is. You can also do social listening. Yes or no in the chat window, have you heard of social listening? And I'll explain what it is. I just want to get a baseline here. But social listening is basically going on channels and listening to your target audience by design. And one of my clients, like I mentioned before, is a sleep health educator. So she'll go on channels like Reddit and hear people more or less gripe about how much they can't sleep in the insomnia subreddit. That's where she learns about her audience and the challenges they have. So if you've not done any kind of audience research, you're putting yourself at a big disadvantage, because you don't know what specific problems your audience has outside of your own bias, and you don't know the effect it's having on them either. So this is that delayed gratification I talk about all the time, or the lonely work, right? It's not as fun as just posting on Instagram and trying to get some likes. This is like when you're just really digging and learning more about your target audience and saying, how can I solve these problems that they're having? And actually repeat back the frustration aligned with that problem and saying, I'm here to help you solve for that. If you do this stuff, everything else falls into place, because if you do audience research, you know what their problems are, but you also know what channels they're on too. Are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Snapchat? I don't know. Go find out, right? But once you do this digging, you'll have much more clarity going forward in regards to how to reach your audience. Need help with that? I wrote an article about it. So that's another thing that I want to bring up, is the more content you create, the more trust you build in your audience, because you have your expertise documented. You don't have to do it for Entrepreneur Magazine like I do. You can do it for your whatever you want. You can do it for your own website. You can do it for LinkedIn. But the more content you create, the more people can consume. And when they first reach out to you, they feel like they already know you and trust you. But if you're like saying, oh, just wait till they talk to me, they're going to be so impressed, that might never happen. And maybe you're like, Terry, look, I don't feel comfortable writing. Okay, don't write. Make videos. Maybe you don't want to make videos. Don't go on videos. Go on Clubhouse. Maybe you don't want to do that. I don't know. Figure something out, because your best ideas can't stay trapped inside of you. So however you feel comfortable and wherever your audience is, you have to find that join. Otherwise, you won't get the chance to express your zone of genius. So there might be some hurdles you have to get over, but you'll never reach your full revenue potential if people don't know you exist, right? And then one of my favorite quotes is this: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So make sure that you position your audience as the hero, right? It's that hero's journey that Donald Miller talks about, not yourself. I see so many people bragging about themselves. I did this. I've been featured in that. I've done this. Yeah, some of that stuff's kind of cool. Some of it after a while, it's like, okay, we get it. Like, do you know anything about me specifically, and do you care?
That's such a huge one. I think there's so many. We have creators from so many disciplines who join us on here, and the consistency with which people say you need to celebrate and provide value to your audience and really understand who they are and recognize who they are. I think that's such a huge one. I appreciate that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm glad you didn't read my bio, because actually I don't like hearing it anymore in situations like this. It's like, let's just brag about this guy for 30 or 40 seconds. Like, all right, let me just help you guys. That's what I care more about, not myself. I know what I've done. I was there when it happened.
Well, and there's also like a little bit of So my background in my coaching consulting is in the public speaking space. I was a speaker coach at TED and did a lot of work there. And the one thing that I think that kind of drives me crazy is when I'm on LinkedIn and I see people who describe themselves as I'm a public speaker. Like,
Sure.
to me, that's like, what does that mean? If at what point in my life as one of your audience members might I be scrolling through and looking for someone who just says I'm a public speaker? Don't do that. Tell me what the expertise is that you're going to provide to me as an audience. Then I understand what value you're providing. But it's totally what you're saying is like thinking about the audience first, right?
Yeah. Well, it's even better when they say they're a sought after speaker and they're never speaking anywhere. It's like, well, how come no one can find you if you're so sought after? Like, I don't see the disconnect
By
here.
whom?
But now let's go into the branding and marketing part, because this is like the meat and potatoes. Like, if you can get this part down, that's when you start getting rewarded for who you are, not just what you do. And what I want to say is the first stop should be just reaching out to your network. It shouldn't be LinkedIn. It shouldn't be Instagram. The biggest challenge you're going to have initially when you're starting your business is establishing trust. And the shortcut to establishing trust is getting introduced by a mutual acquaintance. So what you're going to want to do is make a list of anyone who can refer you to people and say, hey, can you help me? You can do this through an email. You can do this on social. But the more clear you are in what you do and who you do it for, the more impactful it will be. Because if you're like, oh, I help people do stuff, they're going to say, can you please give me your operational definition of stuff? Right? But if you go back to step one and get that clarity, you'll be in a good spot. So before you do anything, even before you create a website, reach out to your network and say, hey, I'm doing this thing. Do you know anyone who can use my services? And I give you a script here. I'm not going to go through it for time, but this is the type of stuff that you find within the course. Plenty of templates, guides, and scripts. There's a 100-page playbook, actually, that I give you to give you all the information you need to have these conversations. Now, I said this before, too. You want to have some kind of opt-in content, right? Some kind of lead magnet. On my end, it's this one-page business plan for consultants. If you're a sleep health educator, maybe it's like 5 holistic ways you can get a better night's sleep tonight. If you're a financial planner, it could be 3 ways to save 10% of your income per month without even noticing it. Whatever it is, come up with something and then go on Canva and make it look cool, or
Make
go
it
on
pretty.
Yeah, or go on Fiverr and give someone $25 to do the same thing, right? But just like get your genius out, get it documented, have a picture of yourself smiling, looking at something. And this is going to just boost your credibility, your branding, and your marketing, right? Does this make sense so far, what I'm saying? Like, first of all, we're getting very clear on what we do, who we do it for. And then we're reaching out to our network before we do any kind of social media, because I've interviewed hundreds of consultants, and the first way they got their first client was through their network. Is this landing well? Do we have questions so far? I want to make sure that this hits, because if you just do these first 3 things, you're already going to be in a really good spot, because you're doing what a lot of people won't do. I'll show you other tactics momentarily, but if this stuff makes sense to you, then you're going to be in a really good spot.
We do have people mentioning in the comments, Michelle, who's in the early stages of developing clarity on the value she's providing, is appreciating social listening, not having seen that as a way to really dig into what are the challenges that my audience are experiencing right now. What are the problems? How might I provide unique value to them? And Dr. Deborah is also saying, she's got 33 plus years invested in a federal career, and is now kind of trying to figure out, all right, how can I translate that into this coaching business? So, she's mentioning like the understanding how to provide clarity and vision, or understanding how to build your clarity and vision is helpful for her at this stage. That's great. Thanks for sharing this, everyone.
Deborah, there's no way you're not in a good spot, because first of all, you're a doctor. Second of all, you work for the federal government for 33 years, and you've been a coach since 2012. You're in a good spot. So I think if I can help you, like give you a few critical tips, I'm happy to do so. But you have all of you, like you have all like the bones in place. I'm just giving you a framework to help you monetize it. But yeah, it's good to know. So Here's the easiest content marketing strategy ever. If you're like, Terry, what should I write about? What do I do? This. Think of 10 questions that your audience has and then answer them. So one question I get all the time is, how much should I charge? How do I get clients? How do I get rid of clients? Stuff like that. On your end, just think of 10 questions that your audience has and answer them. If you're like, hey, Terry, look, I get the tip here, but I can't think of 10 questions my audience has. Cool. Go back and do some research, because that tells me and you that you're not clear enough on your audience. So this is going to be a really good exercise for you to go through. If over the course of an hour, you can't sit down and think of 10 questions that your audience has, you don't have enough clarity in regards to what's going on inside their head and their problems to effectively monetize your knowledge either. So it's a good gut check. Now, that all that how-to stuff is great, but after a while, it's going to seem a little boring, right? You want to show your personality, because the way that you get rewarded for who you are instead of just what you do is by expressing your worldview and your perspective and your experiences. So what I'm going to do right now is give you this content marketing matrix. And now's a good time to grab a screenshot or just write this down, because when you're doing content marketing, you want to have your content pillars, the themes that you consistently talk about over and over again. And as a result of that, people recognize that, and they're going to reach out to you and say, hey, Terry, how can you help me? I know you talk about this, that, and that, and I have this problem. And I'm going to read something verbatim based on someone who booked a discovery call with me recently, meaning they want to learn more about my services. And when you book a call with me, I have you fill out a form to learn more about your business. You should all do that too. That way you're more prepared to go into it. What's your name? What's your website? What's your biggest problem? One question I have is, based on what you know about me, why would you want to partner with me? And she said this. I'm not making this up to sound smart. She said, you're smart and have integrity, are credible, run a business in a way that I admire. Example, having time with your family, making money, selling quality services, and giving away lots of value. I'm not making this up, right? This is on my phone. That's an output of my content marketing strategy. I'll show pictures of me playing with my kids, right? And sometimes they're reenacted, but moral stories, they are my kids. So I'm reinforcing my personal brand as this family guy who still has time to have a business and go work out. And I'm glad she says that I share good value too, but that's what you want to have happen. Someone book a call with you on Friday where they're already sold. Now, how do you do that? I'm going to show you right now. So please do pay attention, okay? What you're going to do is, on the left-hand column, there's different ways you can create content. It can be an image, it can be a video, it can be text. You know how that works. The first one, you're going to jot down ideas that relate to your area of expertise, whatever your zone of genius is. Maybe it's digital marketing. And you're just going to write down ideas like, oh, for digital marketing, I'll say, oh, here's 3 ways to determine which channel you should be on. The next column is industry updates, what updates are going on right now in digital marketing. Well, for those of you that are involved in that, the whole iOS 14.5 update from Apple is messing up a lot of tracking with Facebook and having a negative impact on campaign performance. You give some tips on how to deal with that. The other columns are just unique to you. That's me sharing pictures of my kids. That's me talking about working out. That's me talking about mindset and physical training, stuff like that. That's all you. But you want to have this stuff laid out by design and then just pop in ideas for content. Don't write the whole thing first. Just pop in ideas and then later turn this into a video, into a blog, into a social media post. But when you do this by design, people reach out to you and say, I want to work with you because you're smart, credible, you have time for your family, and you give away value. Like that's the outcome of this stuff. So if this looks like a lot of work, initially it is, but after a while, your content becomes an integration to your life, not an interruption. And if you're providing value to people while also showing your personality, that's how they come to know, like, and trust you. Okay. So on my end, if you can just create content once, twice a week for starters, you'll be in a really good spot. But how does this feel as I'm going through this? And actually, if you're seeing any comments, let me know. But if you can nail this, you'll be in a good spot.
And I personally am finding tremendous value in this, because I've been doing consulting for a long time, but have never felt comfortable with the idea of creating content related to my business, even though I'm looking at this matrix that you're putting up here, and my personal Instagram account, I do share stuff like this a lot, and there's just a little bit of a barrier or something that hasn't allowed me to think, oh well, actually this is probably what my business audience wants too, right? Because it does reflect who I am, what my expertise is, and what they might get if they work with me. So it's helpful for me in that sense. I am curious to know from the audience what if do you all have the same relationship with content? Is it something you're comfortable with? Is it an active practice that you have? Because I kind of like the idea, the way you're describing it. It makes it seem like just a bit of I don't want to call it a journal. That sounds a bit twee, but there's like an element of it that is just a tracking of your experience, your professional and personal experiences, in a way that is useful or interesting to an audience, which I appreciate that framing that you put on it.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It's not always interesting. Like I put posts out that
Right.
no one cares about sometimes. They're like, okay, whatever, do scroll. But if you let that hold you back from posting again, you won't get rewarded for the content that does provide value. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm like winning all the time. If you want to say it that way, I flop all the time. I just know, first of all, I didn't pay anything for this. And second of all, you have unlimited shots. So, why not?
So why not? Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So here's an example of another post I put up that just kind of reinforces, the whole dad thing. This was, in the middle of COVID. It's like my son Tyson, like literally on my shoulders as I'm working. And I'm saying, if this is you too, like I get you, I understand you, I feel you. And, I found a way to make it work for me. And I want to share that with you, as well. Right. So that's the whole narrative here.
Love that.
Here's a very important part. And I want to really stick to this, emphasize this. You also have to engage with other people's content, right? If you just if you only post content and don't actually engage with content, you won't grow, especially at the rate you want to, right? So after you post, you want to go ahead and engage with anyone who comments, but also look for people that you want to make a partnership with for one reason or another. It could be prospects, media, LinkedIn editors, podcast hosts, and by design, comment on their content. Because what you're going to do here is you're going to build a relationship over time. You're going to seem familiar to them because they're like, oh, that's that person who's always commenting on my posts. And then what might happen is they're going to say, hey, look, Terry, I see you're commenting all the time, and I see you do this. Can we talk about it? So instead of DMing people, just actually engage with their content. And as a result of that, they might eventually reach out to you and say, look, I see what you're saying too. Like, can we talk about this? That's how you get more reach in the algorithm. That's how you do these things. Are you okay?
Yeah, you froze a little bit for me. I don't know if it was you or if it was me, but I got you back now, so we're good.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I got a little shook. I'll admit it. I was like, oh crap, my Wi-Fi's turning on.
We found it.
So anyways, the point here is I can't stress this enough. I'm telling you to engage on social media to grow your brand. What I'm telling you to do also is make a list of people by design that you want to be known by. Maybe it's an organization you want to speak at. You want to speak at local colleges. Cool. Make a list of them. And then make a list of all the instructors that teach classes you might want to be a guest speaker for. Right? That's how you can make this partnership. Or if you want to be on a podcast, you want to do a presentation for the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, whatever it is, don't try to rush in and just ask for something. Build a relationship first, right? Or even with potential clients, follow their content, engage with them. And then eventually when the time feels right, you can say, hey, Ashley, it looks like you're talking about this a few times. Look, I'm just coming out of nowhere here, but I have a solution that might help you. Would you like to talk? But if she's seen me interact with her for the last several weeks, it's going to be much more well received than if I just say, hey, Ashley, let's talk about your business plan for 2021. I'd like to help you. Like that doesn't work, right?
So true. That's definitely happened before. Another thing, like a version of that I think I started doing almost inadvertently, but that has had the impact that you're describing, Terry, is reaching out to people in spaces who are doing interesting work that I want to learn more about, and asking them about their expertise, which then in turn usually generates an opportunity for me to talk about mine. And then all of a sudden there's like a two-way street of, oh, when this group who's doing work on criminal justice reform needs help developing curriculum or messaging or speaker coaching, then I'm top of mind for them, and vice versa. So it's a version of what you're saying, but you're totally right. It all comes from, they know who I am and we have a bit of a relationship already. Is not a cold call like, hey, could I help you better present your next keynote?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would say kind of along those lines is, let's pretend there's a few like thought opinion leaders in your area and they have a book coming out. That's the best time to reach out to someone and say, look, I know you have this new book coming out. Can I get a quote from you? Can we do an email interview, maybe even a webinar, like a video interview? And then by design, you get access to their audience because you're talking about them. They might share it with their audience as well, and you lift your brand at the same time. So the best time to talk to any kind of influencer or thought opinion leader is when they have something to promote.
Yeah, that's a great,
easy for them to do so, right? So it's a little media tip for
I like that. That's a good pro tip.
Cool. All right, let's keep going here. And I want to answer the hopefully $1 million question, which is, how do you actually price your services, right? It's pretty important. So
I'm real curious about this one.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the questions that come with this too, if my screen actually holds up. All right, cool. Can you see my screen?
Yep, sure can.
Cool. So take a screenshot or a mental screenshot, whatever it takes, of this next slide, because this is more or less the funnel that you want to develop for your business. And I'm going to walk through it. On the far left hand, we have your lead magnet, or how are people going to be made aware of you? You can choose, right? I have this one person who's very introverted. She's like, Terry, look, I don't want to do social media. I don't want to do podcasts. I don't want to do Clubhouse. I don't want to write. I'm like, you've just taken away all my best tools. But I'm like, eventually people have to know you exist. So how do you want to do that? She's like, I only want to talk to women who are also entrepreneurs. I was like, okay, cool. Let's find some online meetups that you can go to that are women entrepreneur groups. And you're going to go there religiously. You're going to go there every week, show up so they know, like, and trust you, and can refer you to other people. That's what she's doing, and that's how she's winning. But she's winning on her own terms. She's not following some cookie cutter advice saying, you got to be on social media talking about your kids and all this stuff. She's like, I don't want to do that. I feel uncomfortable. So you have to find a way to get people made aware of you that feels comfortable. Otherwise, you won't do it, or you'll sacrifice your mental health in exchange for that attention, and that ain't worth it.
Right.
So there's no magic bullet. What works is what works for you.
That's also, I don't mean to interrupt, but Candace made a really great point about exactly that, where she mentions that it's an authentic vibe, right? Finding a balance, something that demonstrates you authentically. So for this entrepreneur you're talking about, it wouldn't feel right if she were all of a sudden just trying to pop up on social media, because that's not authentically who she is. So figuring out a way to really be herself, like that's, like you said, help your own mental health and your business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing she said, she's like, I definitely don't want to work with any old men. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm 42, so I guess I've met somehow that threshold. But and that is what it is. She just, I respect everyone's, opinion on how they feel comfortable. But so the next level is your tripwire. Please keep this in mind. This is like something low cost you can offer people just to get them to spend some money with you. It could be a $15 ebook. It can be a $500 online course. It could be an hour of consulting, but just to pre-qualify people for your larger packages, and or help people who can't afford your more expensive packages. Either or. The next up is your core product. This is what you're known for, more or less. It could be consulting, coaching, audits. It could be group coaching, even speaking at conferences. But this can also be a trap, because if you only do this stuff, you miss out on your maximum revenue potential, which is by leveraging your profit multiplier. Your profit multiplier, and please write this down, is normally an extension of your core product, but the context that makes it much more valuable. And I'll give you an example. Let's pretend you're a social media marketing expert and you train people how to leverage social media. Sure, you can charge $10,000 for that. Or you can teach an agency that only does branding, how to do direct response marketing on Instagram, and as a result, charge them $50,000 because your knowledge scales across everyone who works there as well as all their clients. That's what you want to get in the habit of doing, is also pitching your profit multiplier, because 1 or 2 yeses there, you're making bank. You only need like 1 or 2 yeses per quarter, if that, and you're going to be doing very well. So don't sell yourself short by sticking with your core product, which is what far too many people do.
Can I give just a very quick, very recent example of that from myself?
Yeah, go for it.
So I've, have worked in lots of different spaces doing strategic messaging and data informed storytelling for social impact. And we had a client recently that was asked to do a pitch for, and it's fairly new. And like a lot of, like Deborah mentioned, and I think Michelle mentioned, like not knowing how to take those big steps. I was working with a partner and we were like, oh, how should we pitch this? And ultimately we landed, we were like, all right, let's pitch this project for 10 grand. It'll be X number of hours of work, whatever. And then we found out that the client also is hiring a PR firm to help execute on the project. And they're paying the PR firm $700,000.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And we were like, oh my God. I need a lesson in that profit multiplier. Like, very useful slide for me in this moment, Terry. Thank you.
Yeah, that hurts. But
Doesn't it?
What'll happen sometimes, if someone likes you, they won't say hell no. They'll say, here's our budget. So they're not going to say like get lost. They'll counter. But if you sell yourself short by starting off at $1,000 or whatever, you won't even get in that conversation because you might scare them off with your rates. You don't value yourself enough. I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in general. Right.
Yeah. No, it's a total, and when you're starting out, when you're new in consulting and coaching, I think the tendency is definitely to underestimate what people will pay, which is what you said at the very beginning of this session. Fish don't see the water, right? It's hard to recognize how truly valuable the expertise is that you have because it's second nature to you. But for the clients that you're working with, like, how much would you pay to be able to have a better night's sleep, right? Like that's a great reminder.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, let's keep plugging along here because I want to save time for some questions. But you also want to have a tiered service offering. So here's one example. That same person, it could be like a 3-hour workshop on how to audit your digital marketing campaigns. The next level up could be, okay, I'll actually do that audit for you and give you a playbook to fix it. After that, it could be, I'll give you all that and I'll train you how to implement these changes. And the last one could be ongoing support. Make sure that you always insert yourself in the future of the client you're working with, because once you get a yes from them, you want to keep on generating revenue over a longer period of time. So maybe you do a project for them, in Q1, you could say, hey, let's do a check-in every quarter. We'll sit down for half a day. It'll be like whatever, $10,000. We'll talk about your progress, so on and so forth. But don't remove that option because they might say yes. You never know. Now, what I really want to hone in right now is pricing. How much should you actually charge? And to go back to the original statement, when I first started consulting, I was charging like 40 or 50 bucks an hour, which is insane. Now I charge 500 and it still works, right? So it's often just like knowing the value, how much you're worth, that gives you that information. And the reason why I raised my rates is because I saw some other woman who I think was equally qualified was charging 400 bucks an hour. And I was like, well, you know what? I should probably follow suit. So how do you come up with your prices? Well, you do some research. First thing is just Google it, see what happens. There might be some articles saying the average financial consultant charges this much. Another is some competitors have their rates on their website. Do that research too. Beyond that, other business owners may have used a similar service. Ask them. And then also ask other coaches and consultants, like everyone on this call, how much they charge. That's the value of having a network, because then you have other people that you know, like, and trust who can share that information with you. And then when you come up with these prices, let's pretend you're charging $5,000 for a package that you're offering. Think about your desired annual revenue. Let's say it's $100,000. Okay, cool, that's fine, but realize you have to sell 20 of these per year, or roughly 2 per month. That's doable, in my opinion. But you also want to see what your conversion rate is from your discovery calls. It should be at least 33%, which means for you to make $100,000 a year, you have to book 6 discovery calls per month. How do you do that? You go on social media, you talk about cool stuff, right? And then beyond that, once you start getting clients, you ask for referrals, and you also have testimonials that you have on your website, on social media too, right? So that's how you can come up with the pricing model, more or less. But I want to make sure that we have time to answer any questions around that. One thing I also want to mention here is there's also an option to do a group coaching model. And the benefit of group coaching is you can leverage what I call the 3 C's. And the 3 C's are this. First, you have a course that has all the content you would deliver on demand. So you're not teaching anything new, you're answering questions about it. That's what I do with my course. The next one is coaching, where you can have group coaching calls with team members, or sorry, with various individuals, where you answer any questions that come up with the curriculum or any ad hoc situation. And the last one is consulting, where these are one-on-one services, but you're still using that online course as the core curriculum. That's why I built an online course, because I'm a busy dad of 3 children and I need to give as much value as I can asynchronously. So the conversations I have live, such as through the office hours you get through my course, are much more impactful. In regards to pricing, I'm just throwing some numbers out here just for scale. The course, luckily mine's not $600. You can charge $600 for. Coaching could be $4,000 for a 3-month program. Consulting, which is one-on-one, it could be $12,000 for the same thing. Right? So to wrap things up here, this is what my course looks like. If you want to see an idea of what some of the sections look like. So we go through that content calendar, how to create your speaking topics, how to do email outreach, both cold and warm, how to activate your network. A lot of cool stuff in here, but it's all also packaged in this playbook that I created, the Coaching Consulting Playbook, which is 100 pages of scripts, guides, and templates to guide you through building your business. That all comes with the course too. And you also get access to me for weekly live Q&A calls, which I think is, in my opinion, the best benefit, because now it's bespoke information just based on what you want to learn. And here's some examples of questions came up with that recently. One of my favorites is, how do I justify the ROI of my services? Right. So these are the questions you can ask me and get a specific answer for by signing up for this course. But we still have time to answer questions now. So I'm going to stop talking and start answering questions and provide some value here. So let's do that.
Thank you so much, Terry. You have already provided a tremendous amount of value, which I've seen in the comments and also for me personally. So thank you. Please, audience, join me in showing some love to Terry for his generosity and his wisdom. Want to just make sure that he knows how much we appreciate him being here today, before we then pick his brain for further information, more bespoke information, like you mentioned, Terry. Definitely drop into the comments any questions that you have, anything that you are curious about, whether it's related to the course, which I just dropped the link in again if you want to check out the course that Terry was mentioning. And we've already got Michelle mentioning, she's had been struggling figuring out how much to charge because she doesn't want to scare people away, right? So giving this formula, or at least an approach that folks can use to figure out how to price themselves, is a great way to avoid the kind of situation that I have, where you drastically undervalue yourself, and can kind of jump over that hurdle of being scared that you will, or being nervous that you'll scare people away. So that's a great boon there. So definitely helped Michelle on that front.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think there's nothing wrong with scaring people away because your prices are too high. That's how you get information. You're like, oh, shouldn't have done that, right?
Yeah.
Or you might get a no from the wrong audience, right? If someone doesn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that you're teaching them how to get a better night's sleep, how to, get a better handle of their finances, they don't value their education enough. That's the
Right.
problem. It's not you. It's the fact that they don't want to invest in themselves. So
And
I
they're not
typically
your
say,
audience.
yeah. So there's
Yeah,
nothing wrong
yeah.
with you, which is like they don't get it, and you can't help everyone. And I think sometimes people feel pressure to give away a lot of free information during these discovery calls and stuff like that too. I would say don't. I would say the content you create on your website, on social media, that's the free stuff. But when
Mm-hmm.
you're on a call with someone, you're going to say, okay, so, what's the biggest challenge you have right now? What change would have to occur in order for you to be happy about working with me?
Yeah,
And once
yeah.
they say that, you'll know exactly what you have to do to win their business. But don't like go in with a script where you're just asking questions and not having a conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
also, you don't have to work with everyone who wants to work with you. Even as the seller, you should still be the buyer. If they give you bad vibes, if you think they'll be too demanding, if you just don't want to do it,
Yeah,
say no, right?
yeah, yeah.
And and be honest about it, because what I've done before is I've lied and said I was too busy to work. And then they see me like on social media a day later, like, hey, if you need help, please click here, buy now. And they're like, dude, you said like you said you were too busy to work. Like, why why
I've got nothing but time. Come hang out.
yeah. So yeah, that's why you're just better off being honest with people and letting them know why it's not a good fit. Um,
I so appreciate that, and have definitely learned that lesson. Maybe not the hard way, but have found myself trying to come up with the words to say, actually, I don't think this is a great match because, then getting a response back that's really actually someone, the potential client appreciates that and recognizes, oh, okay, this person is really paying attention to the value that I'm looking for, and enough to know that they're not the one who's going to provide it. Right.
that
Uh,
happened to me. I want to tell a story. There's this one
yeah.
woman
Yeah.
who came to me and she's like, hey, I need help with, I can't remember what it was, like something with her social media back when I did that. And I was like, I don't think you're in a good fit to monetize your website because this, and that is messed up.
Mm.
And she's like, okay, thanks for your honesty. I have to go meet with my friend Blake. I'll be back late. I'll talk to you later. And then her friend Blake turned out to be Blake Lively. And I was like, what? And she wanted help with one of her
Oh,
companies.
okay.
So I was like,
Cool, cool,
I
cool.
couldn't I couldn't help this lady, but she's like, he's a good guy. You should trust him. And as a result, that's how that connection was made. But just being respectful when you say no sometimes can just leave such a
Yeah.
good impression. They still want to share with other people who maybe you can help.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of which, we have a couple questions coming in specifically. Dr. Deborah is curious how she can schedule a clarity/discovery call with you. Let's go through the best options for that, for folks who
Yeah,
are interested in more of your services in addition to the course.
yeah. If you go to the my website, which is terryrice.co, co, not com, someone else has it, you'll find links to do so. But what I would really encourage everyone to do is, if you do want to chat more in real time, the course is probably the best option, because you'll have all this content already and you can join me every Thursday for live Q&A. So I think it's more cost effective, in my opinion, to do it that way, because you'll get a lot of great support, but you'll also be on the call with other people who are asking questions, and sometimes their questions are going to go ahead and give you valuable information as well.
Yeah, it's a really useful framing to put on it, to be with other, it's a kind of all boats rise, right? When
Yeah.
a situation where you have folks who are all kind of connected by their goal and trying to figure out how to increase their business, and they might frame questions differently or in a way that provides some clarity for you of like, oh yes, that's actually the thing that I'm struggling with. So I think that's a great benefit of the way that you have your business structured too, is that not only are people getting access to you as a content expert and experience coach, but you are invited into a community of people who are largely dealing with similar struggles to the challenges that you're facing in this point in your journey, right?
Yeah, it can be lonely as an entrepreneur. And when you have
For
a network
sure.
of people who understand what you're going through And sometimes like you don't want someone to try to fix it. You just want them to listen. You're like, look, I just want to vent. I am not looking for any resolution. I just have to get this out right now. And that's the community that, I've built in addition to being supportive. But sometimes you just want to like let it out and say, am I crazy? Like, can I just let this,
Yeah, you
let
need
this out for
that.
a minute?
Yeah,
It
that's like a
helps.
thing. That's one of the trade-offs of pursuing the entrepreneurial life is you give up that quick access to your team. Like if you're working at a big company or on a big team where you can just kind of vent and everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. So you got to find that elsewhere, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, and the thing is, like, you might have a spouse or a partner, but after a while, they're like, "Okay, we're still talking about that."
They're like,
Yeah. So,
yeah,
so
okay.
it's good to have another outlet for that type of stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. So lots of love coming in through the chat here. We have a couple of folks who said, "Oh, I'm bummed I came in a bit too late," but that's okay because you will have the opportunity to replay this entire session. You have access forever to the wisdom that Terry shared with us today. You can check the YouTube channel here, the Discover YouTube channel. Also, if you're interested in content like this, where we have fantastic and brilliant experts like Terry come and share what they know and generously give of their time, like and subscribe to this channel, and we'll let you know when Terry comes back, hopefully, and when we have other folks who might have experiences that you'll also benefit from. You'll also get an email. Everyone who registered for this event will get an email with the replay, so you will have access to it there as well. Thank you, Terry, so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Again, folks, the link to Terry's course is pinned to the top of the YouTube comments, so check that out. And thank you all, audience, for this very global crowd in a wide variety of positions on your entrepreneurial journey. It's been great to hear everybody's thoughts and questions, and we are grateful to you for sharing your time with us. So thanks so much. Terry, if you wouldn't mind sticking around for just a minute as we sign off for the audience. Any final words to our crew here?
Yeah, I would say this. I mean, you have valuable knowledge to share. And I know it's hard at first, where like you're just, you're not getting the yeses you're looking for or the attention you're looking for, and you feel like giving up. I encourage you to push through because you're going to hit this stride eventually. And you're like, well, people are reaching out to me instead of the other way around. And I'm actually too busy to take on this work. Do I build a course? Do I hire a team? Then you have other good problems, but you'll just look back and like, you want to tell yourself in the past, like, stick with it, like it's going to happen. And that's what I wish I could do right now, because again, I know what it's like when you're just starting out, you got a newborn who's keeping you up at night, and then you're still waking up early to, do some cold emails. It's going to be challenging, but it doesn't have to be confusing. And, my goal here is to help you with that, to give you that clarity and that compression in regards to moving forward, but you can't do it. You just got to keep on pushing forward.
Keep on pushing forward. Thank you so much, Terry. Everyone have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever time it is where you are, and we will see you next time. Take care.